All right, for those of you who dabble in astrology, for those of you who don't know, I dabble in astrology. And I wanted to speak on some things surrounding the difference in Saturn. So in astrology, Saturn is a disciplinarian. And oftentimes we think about Saturn, everybody's afraid of Saturn. And Saturn is ruled by the zodiac signs Capricorn and Aquarius. And so when you go through your Saturn return, depending on where your Saturn is in and what house it's in, that's a little bit more complex as far as astrology. If you're just newly dabbled in astrology, you're not going to understand what I'm talking about. But for those of you who do, and when the people who get to that level of astrology and understand that concept, you'll notice certain aspects that are going on in your life. I would say Saturn has been in Aquarius for the last almost 2 years, okay? When Saturn goes through certain signs, you might not be impacted as much until when you get to the certain part in astrology, when you start understanding those little degrees. So it's like if your Saturn is at Capricorn at 13 degrees and 55, for 13 degrees, 55 minutes, that's when it's going to be more applicable to you. And that's how we utilize those degrees when we have certain planets touching, certain personal planets touching when Saturn, the Saturn that's going around in the universe and the multiverse, touches one of your planets. And so that's when you'll have like a boom, kaboom moment, or really hard struggling, or like magic happens. So in essence, the difference between Saturn, the energy that is given to you, and Saturn and Capricorn and Saturn and Aquarius. So in Saturn and Capricorn, it's like the slow and steady wins the race. It's like the person who, you bide your time and you just keep working hard, and it's just, your progress is just so fucking slow. And that is why people get so frustrated with Saturn in Capricorn, because it's like, it's taking forever. I've been working in this place for 20 something fucking years, or I've been doing this for X amount of years, and I'm still not making progress, because you don't feel like you're making progress in a thing. And Saturn in Capricorn just tells you to keep on working. Saturn in Capricorn will also rid you of anything that you're doing half-ass. So for instance, let's say, depending on what house placement is in, is where you're going to feel this impacted. So when Saturn transits, especially in like the Capricorn, the home ruler of Saturn, if you did anything half-ass, if you cheated your way up to the top, Saturn is going to check that, and Saturn is like the mom. I don't know if anybody out there has black moms, but if you didn't do it right, they're going to make you do it again. You do a half-ass job, you're going to do it again. So that is Saturn and Capricorn, okay? Saturn and Aquarius, and a lot of people associate, it's a ruler also co-ruler of Saturn, and Saturn and Aquarius. But Saturn and Aquarius is different. It's a bit different. It's a different energy that you have to deal with. Now, for me, I have a lot of Taurus placements, and I fucks with Saturn and Capricorn, okay? I can understand the slow ones. It's a pain, because sometimes Taurus likes to be lazy, and we like the extravagance of life. Not in the same aspect of Leo, but we like the comforts of life, and sometimes we don't want to work hard for it. But we can understand. We have that understanding, because Taurus also rules money, rules the second house, rules money. So I have that understanding with Saturn and Capricorn with regards to working towards something. However, Saturn and Aquarius, which is another fixed sign, that is opposing, or actually not even opposing, squaring Aquarius, Saturn and Aquarius, because Saturn and Aquarius right now is a little bit different energy. And I will speak from my own experience where I had to learn that energy. I had to learn Aquarius energy. I did not know Saturn and Aquarius, that energy at all. So this past year, so like I said, when you have, when Saturn goes through certain signs, you're going to feel it when it touches certain angles. And so this year was probably the most struggle year. And I would say the last 6 to 8 months of my life have been fucking insane. Insane. It was like Aquarius type stuff. So one of the things I will speak on as well is another complex concept is that Aquarius, which is a Saturn-esque ruled sign, and we say like Pluto, if you know anything about Pluto, was ruled by Scorpio. Aquarius and Scorpio are very similar. And I know that sounds absolutely fucking crazy, but they really are. They're similar in certain ways because Aquarius rules lightning, okay? Like a zap, like a eureka moment, like sudden zap. Whereas Pluto rules, or Scorpio, is ruled by Mars or Pluto in modern astrology, but Scorpio all rules the stinger. So just like the precision with the zap is the same thing of precision with the scorpion stinger, okay? So anyway, needless to say, so there is some type of strange connection that it feels like that Aquarius Saturn energy feels similar to Pluto in some aspects, right? Because it's this sudden zap of whatever it is, okay? When, Scorpio rules emotion. So, for Pluto, it might be a sudden zap of emotion, like sudden passion or sudden, like, emotional uproar, for whatever the Pluto is touching, and then for Aquarius, it's going to be a sudden upheaval in certain aspects, okay? Both elements or both modalities can work in transformation in different ways. So I feel like Aquarius and Scorpio do have an understanding on a different level. Aquarius tends to be more detached. So Aquarius is about patterns. They're able to calculate patterns. They're able to observe things and calculate patterns, but they don't have skin in it. They're just like, oh, okay, that's the trend or whatever. Like they have the knowledge base or, they can observe that phenomenon, but Scorpio observes patterns and has skin in it. Like they're going to be like, very attached. They're going to be very emotionally attached to their observations and their thoughts and their feelings on this, right? So that's a Scorpio-esque thing. So far we talked about Capricorn, Aquarius, and Scorpio, and I know it kind of gets confusing about what is she talking about, get to the point. So in essence, my experience, because I have a lot of Taurus in my chart, I also have Scorpio in my chart. And this is why I bring this up. And so the last 6 to 8 months of my life have been hell, okay? And I had to learn about Aquarius energy, okay? And I had to think differently than a Scorpio and a Taurus, okay? Scorpio and Taurus do also share. They're like more comfortable with certain aspects than the detachment of the Aquarius, okay? Because maybe if you have a Scorpio and a Taurus combination, it's like you worked hard for your money and that's your money and that's nobody can take, like you're passionate about, you worked for, et cetera, okay? So that's a Scorpio Taurus type of modality, and I earned it, and I worked really hard and I did this, or I stayed so long to the relationship, et cetera. So that's kind of like a Scorpio Taurus type of vibe. But Aquarius is like more detached. It's like, all right, get over it. Like, okay. It's not necessarily caring about how long you put into this. It's time to change. That's what Aquarius is about. So speaking on an Aquarius energy, so a lot of things in my life recently, for example, my car caught on fire just randomly. My car was already starting to be on hospice, but I'm like, all right, well, I'm looking to get a new job. I'm just going to hold on to it and baby my car and, just, put the money into it just to keep it running and go to point A to point B and, it'll be okay or whatever. And I have a personal mechanic, that helps me out. And, he's been keeping my car alive. So that was my philosophy. That's a Taurus philosophy, right? I've had this car for X amount of years. and I'm going to keep it and baby it until I can get another job that earns more. That is the practical solution. Aquarius, on the other hand, comes in and my car catches on fire suddenly. Boom, it's gone. Now I'm like, shit, I gotta get a new car. I can't even fucking afford a new car. Are you serious? Like, how do I do this? That's Aquarius energy. So I have to figure it out without stability, right? There had been another situation at work that had a lot of uncertainty in it, right? You have to be comfortable with the uncertainty because Taurus is about certainty. And that's, what you have to learn, So within this last 6 to 8 months, and even things surrounding school, uncertainty. I'm in graduate school, so there was a lot of uncertainty surrounding things like sudden changes. I suddenly found a preceptor, which I didn't even know I was going to move forward in the program because I needed a preceptor expert in what I'm trying to do in order to move forward. And I just randomly found, and I didn't even find it, a patient of mine passed off information and just happened to randomly send an email on the internet, AKA Aquarius, and connect with somebody. And I didn't even realize, they could have just been like, I don't know what this is. Cause I, just pleading for help in that way. Of like, I'm a student and I need it, I'm working on this project and I'm really passionate about it, but I can't move forward unless I have a mentor or, expert in the field. So, randomly sending an email to the person and getting a response. Like, they could have totally just ignored my email because it's a random email. Like, who answers random emails? But it was Aquarius, sudden. So what I learned from Aquarius energy and everything that I've learned so far, especially with regards to the upheaval, because Pluto can also, remember we talked about a little about Pluto and Scorpio, and Pluto can represent upheaval based on the concept of transformation, right? Because Pluto rules transformation. It could be a good transformation or a bad transformation. It's in your power, right? So when you have the knowledge of that, you can choose to direct that energy for the positive or the negative, right? And so when the planets go around and Pluto is touching something, it represents you're going to transform in some type of way. Transformation can be painful. It can be beautiful. It's all relative. In the same essence that Aquarius Saturn energy. Aquarius Saturn energy is like being able to perform even in the randomness, like, even in the uncertainty, because it's not planned. A lot of stuff that happened, especially with regards to my Taurus energy, and even with regards to questioning my Scorpio energy is very strategic, right? Scorpio strategizes. That is their strength, right? So if you are very good at strategizing, when something is sudden and takes you off your guard, that's really shifting. That's really like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because you're very good at being strategic and paying attention and like being able to connect what I do need to do behind the scenes, especially because Scorpio is underneath, behind the scenes. That's why people say, Scorpio energy is very like deceiving or conniving or like underhanded. Yes. So what was I saying? So as far as Saturn, so Saturn with Aquarius was like basically an energy that I had no familiarity with because I have a lot of earth in my chart and water. So one of the things that Saturn and Aquarius taught me is the difference between being practical and having a practical approach to a solution and a logical approach to a solution. So Aquarius is the mad scientist of the zodiac, right? So the Aquarius will be logical, would have the logical answer, but Taurus would have the practical answer, right? So the practical answer, for example, the car issue, would be, all right, save up enough money to get a car. You need a new car, but you can't, afford to buy one right now. So you're going to do the slow and steady thing and save enough money until you're able to have enough car. And when you get a new job, maybe you can take out financing for that, right? That would be the practical solution. But the logical solution would be, well, you need a new car, just get a new car. And so Taurus is like, well, it doesn't make any sense, because in real life, you can't just get money for a new car if you don't have it. So this is where certain things beg of you to ask, or beg of you to use the logical answer versus the practical answer. And that is very challenging for someone who has a lot of earth in their chart. Because you can't phantom it. You're like, well, if that doesn't happen in real life, so how is it supposed to happen? So another example, I was so burnt out at my job, the job that I do. I love it. I love the patient aspect, but it was like the administrative aspect was really starting to like wear on me, and it was bringing me down. And the Taurus in me is like, okay, well, just keep on looking for a new job, and just keep going with the flow. And then, when something comes along, you'll be able to move and transition accordingly. But the logical response was just leave. That seems fucking insane. Or you're not liking your job, just leave. But that's not realistic. Realistic means practical, not idealistic, which is in the ideal situation. So I ended up getting it was draining me so much with the mundane, and it was like draining my fucking soul away, that I just was like, one day I got to get out. And I was so down, and I didn't know how I was going to get out, because I was like, well, I need this, this, and this to happen before I am able to leave, So I was talking to my best friend, and ironically, my best friend has Mercury in Aquarius, right? So this is during this transit of mine where Aquarius, this whole like 6 to 8 months, was touching my Venus. So at first it started off, it was touching my my sun. So last year, with regards to, it was creating my own identity, right? And understanding my own identity, right? Not on the basis of what, I thought I wanted to be, but like really who I am, and embracing my uniqueness, because Aquarius is about being unique, right? So that was what that was about. And so this year was with regards to what I value and how I show up, how I show value in things, right? And what I value. So Venus can rule your money, how you get money, how you make money. And so not only this, we have a Uranus transit touching my Venus. And then we have Saturn, which is in Uranus, or Saturn in Aquarius, is now touching my Venus. So that is going to translate, I'm going to be making money, which is Venus and Taurus, a different way. It's asking me to do it a different way, differently. Not a way that Taurus is familiar with. So that's a scary thing. So I was talking to my best friend, and she has Mercury in Aquarius, and she's like, okay. I was talking to her how I felt about the situation. I was like, I have to leave. And she was like, okay, we'll just leave. And I was like, I can't leave. I have bills to pay. I have stuff to do. Like, I have a car note now. And she was like, okay, well, you can find another job. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know, but I got to wait it out, and et cetera. And she was like, well, why do you have to do all that? You can just leave and just get another job. And if you don't like that one, just leave that one. I was like, but that's not what I do. That's not what I do. I build on what I have, and et cetera, et cetera. But then the eureka moment with dealing with somebody who's Mercury in Aquarius, because this is the Aquarius energy, keep on repeating, and Saturn is in Aquarius. I had the eureka moment that like, I have to leave. I just have to do it. And up for these last two years, I've been stagnated in this particular job. And while I love the patients and I love doing what I do, one of the things that's stagnating is I'm not growing, because I'm advancing in my career as far as my degrees, but I'm staying in the same framework job because it's comfortable. And so Aquarius, the logical answer is going to ask you to be uncomfortable and do the idea, and so the whole process of getting comfortable with thinking something and doing it and manifesting it is not, it's different. It's different. Especially it's sudden. It's not, I'm not the type of person to leave a job without anything set up, you know, and that's what I ended up doing. I pulled an Aquarius move and be like, yeah, God's plan. I mean, I like to think that, you know, with this transit, with Saturn and Aquarius touching my Venus and Taurus, and it's asking me to do something differently and how I make my money and how I see what I value, and it's asking me to do something different in that framework, I'd like to say that in order to conquer this task, because I was just like so down and depressed. I mean, I was drained, like with regards to this. I was so down and depressed. And I couldn't see a way out because the mundane, everyday mundane of what I'm doing is just like, okay, I'm waiting. And that was what Taurus wanted me to do. But basically, what I learned in this transit is when you have a Saturn square Venus, you are asked, for example, in this case, it's an Aquarius squaring Taurus and Venus. It's asking you to do the impractical answer, okay? So every answer that you thought was correct, the correct answer would have been save enough money, wait till you get a new job, et cetera, it's no longer correct. That's not the right answer. I know it sounds crazy. I don't know if you guys can understand how that works or how that makes sense. So every answer that you thought was correct based on your home sign, which my home sign is Taurus. My home sign is Taurus, and my Venus is in Taurus. So that answer I would circle, if I wait it out, that's not the right answer. The right answer is just go. And that was really scary. So yeah, so that's a little bit about my, learn about energies. I think one of the things also with Saturn transits, what I learned in this whole situation is that Saturn transits are important, not only because you do the Saturn return thing and, the understanding surrounding that, but Saturn transits are important because it is the slowest personal planet and the fastest, like, outer planet, I guess you could say, call it maybe. So basically, by the time you hit your Saturn return, you have experienced every transit in all 12 zodiac signs in Saturn. That's what that's saying, okay? So when you're working on your second Saturn return, because your first one is anywhere between 27 and 30, when you're working on your second Saturn return, you are with a higher consciousness. You're with a different consciousness, because your first Saturn return, like, that's when you're born, is when Saturn's in a certain place. And then, Saturn goes through each sign, and it finally goes back to the same place when you're 60, around 57 to 60, right? So those themes are going to revisit, and except this time, if you're into astrology, you'll understand those themes will be very similar. They'll give you a hint on what's going to be happening. So needless to say, I was able to process some of that information and understand what's been going on in other aspects of my life that is very Saturn-esque and Saturn and Aquarius type things going on. Yeah, so that's my whole philosophy and the difference between Saturn and Aquarius and Saturn and Capricorn. I know we often associate both with Saturn, but they two operate very different. In fact, when I was really at my low of the low, I was like, and things were going on, things like life was happening to me, and like I couldn't control aspects of my life with my Scorpio or my Taurus. I was like, yo, you know what my life feels like right now? My life feels like that guy from The Pursuit of Happiness. You ever seen that movie? I don't know if you guys ever watched the movie or read the book, but like all these like random situations would be happening. Like the guy promises him a job. He goes up to the job place. Oh, that guy, he stopped working here like 2 weeks ago. Like, you know what I mean? Like stuff that's like totally off kilter. Like you plan for something and then all of a sudden it's like, that's not the case anymore. And you still have to go on. So I looked at that guy's chart. Didn't you know he's an Aquarius? So I don't know. The universe works in mysterious ways, but I just wanted to share that for people who are struggling, who have any fixed sign. I know any fixed sign, the last 2 years probably are likely have been a little rough, right? So I just wanted to share with you, perspectives on that. All right, like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, take care.